Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev ki jai. Nitya Pravishtam Vishnu Parashatarashatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitya Pravishtam Vishnu Par Ashatarashatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitya Pravishta Mahabhagavat Srila Gokshwaras Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitya Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitya Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadas Raghunath Shar Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gopal Shad Vrinda ki jai. Nama Chai Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Kshetra Mandal Gora Mandal Vraja Mandal Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Avishta Bharati Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Gaur. Hari Bol, Krishna Shil from London, Hari Bol. I started like 2 minutes early today and nobody's here. Anyways, okay, I'm going to share my screen. Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad-Bhakti Vedanta Narayanati Namine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Itadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam pravrajantam anupetam apeta krityam dvaipayano virahakatara ajuhava putreti tanmayataya taravo bhinedu stang sarva bhuta hridayam munimanatosmi Narayanam namaskrityam narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye Shrinvatang Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridantasto Hyabadrani Vidhunoti Suritsatam Nashta Prayashvavadreshu Nityang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam Bhakta Vihina Aparada Lakshya Kshiptashtakama Ditaranga Madhe Kripa Mai Tvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Dandavat pranams, Ganga Didi, and Raseshwari Mataji. Hari Bol. So now we're going to continue on. I started like 2 minutes early just because I wanted to read a bit more today. And so, yeah, I didn't want to end really late. Just wanted to read peacefully, not have to rush at the end. We're reading 6,100 words, so not that much more, but the history of the life of Ajamil. But before that begins, before the story of Ajamil, first, Parīkṣit Maharaj, he summarizes what Śukadeva Gosvāmī is saying and then inquires further. He described about Pravritti Marg, Nivritti Marg, hellish life, the first Manvantar, dynasties, and cosmology. How can humans be saved from entering hellish life? And one thing, Pravritti Marg is the path of impulse. You know, like I desire to do this. Like my senses want me to do this. I'm feeling like an urge to do this, and so then we do it. That's the path of Nivritti Marg, doing everything for pleasing myself, like quick happiness, you know. But Nivritti Marg is the path of what do you say? Renouncing things, of giving up things, of like refraining. How would he say that? Anyways, yeah, you get the idea though. And that's the path of liberation, when we're giving up all our material desires and our gross impulses, and we're like that. So let's see here. Link. From Canto 5 to Canto 6. Hearing about the suffering of men falling into hell in the last chapter of the 5th canto, Parīkṣit Maharaj becomes compassionate on them and inquires how they could be saved from such conditions. To enthuse Śukadeva Gosvāmī, he first reveals his understanding of the previously explained subjects. So Maharaj Parīkṣit summarizes and inquires further. Dear Śukadeva Gosvāmī, you have already described about the path of gradual elevation to Brahmaloka, by which one attains liberation, along with Lord Brahma. So you've explained Nivritti Marg, the path of gradual elevation, and Pravritti Marg, the path of elevation to the heavenly planets, by which one follows the various bodily inclinations. You also described hellish life, the result of impious activities, and the first Manvantar, presided over by Swayambhuva Manu. And you described the dynasties, King Priyavrata and King Uttanapad. And then you described cosmology, the islands, the varshas, the oceans, mountains, rivers, gardens, and trees, as well as the earth, luminaries, and lower planets, with their characteristics and dimensions, just as the Lord created them. Now, kindly tell me how humans may be saved from having to enter hellish conditions in which they suffer terrible pain. Now, Śukadeva Gosvāmī tests Maharaj Parīkṣit and establishes the position of bhakti. Note, now Śukadeva Gosvāmī prescribes atonement according to karma to test the proficiency of his student Parīkṣit and to understand his opinion on the matter. Now he's going to explain Karma-kandic atonement. And then Parīkṣit Maharaj rejects atonement, and he's going to speak about Jñāna-kāṇḍa, and finally bhakti. Alright. And then tomorrow we'll begin the story of Ajamil. I'm praying our power doesn't go out. I mean my power. Dandavat pranams, Madhavi Didi. Where is it? Okay. Shri Shuka Uvacha Nacheri ihaiva pachitim yatam hasa kritasya kuryan mana uktapani bhi dhruvam savai preta narakanu paiti. ये kirtita me bhavatas tigma yatana. Oh my God, sorry. Śukadeva Gosvāmī replied, "My dear king, if before one's next death, whatever impious activities one has performed in this life with his mind, words and body are not counteracted through proper atonement according to the description of the Manu Samhita and other Dharma Shastras, one will certainly enter the hellish planets after death and undergo terrible suffering, as I have previously described to you." Purport by Srila Prabhupada. So remember, this is Śukadev's test to Parīkṣit Maharaj to see if he's going to accept this. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur mentions that although Maharaj Parīkṣit was a pure devotee, Śukadeva Gosvāmī did not immediately speak to him about the strength of devotional service. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 14.26, "Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sa gunan samatityaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate." Devotional service is so strong that if one fully surrenders to Krishna and takes fully to his devotional service, the reactions of his sinful life immediately stop. Elsewhere in the Gita 1866, Lord Krishna urges that one give up all other duties and surrender to him, and he promises, "Aham tang sarva papebhyo mokshaishami." I shall free you from all sinful reactions and give you liberation. Therefore, in response to the inquiries of Parīkṣit Maharaj, Śukadeva Gosvāmī, his guru, could have immediately explained the principle of bhakti. But to test Parīkṣit Maharaj's intelligence, he first prescribed atonement according to Karma-kandic, the path of fruitive activities. For Karma-kandic, there are 80 authorized scriptures, such as Manu Samhita, which are known as Dharma Shastras. In these scriptures, one is advised to counteract his sinful acts by performing other types of fruitive action. This was the path first recommended by Śukadeva Gosvāmī to Maharaj Parīkṣit. And actually, it is a fact that one who does not take to devotional service must follow the decision of these scriptures by performing pious acts to counteract his impious acts. This is known as atonement. Tasmat puraivashva. Oh God, let me try again. Tasmai puraivashviha papa niskrito yate tamritor avipadyatatmana doshasya drishtva gurulaghavam yata bhishak chikitseta rujan nidanavit. Therefore, before one's next death comes, as long as one's body is strong enough, one should quickly adopt the process of atonement according to Shastra. Otherwise, one's time will be lost, and the reactions of his sins will increase. As an expert physician diagnoses and treats a disease according to its gravity, one should undergo atonement according to the severity of one's sins. Purport. The Dharma Shastras, like the Manu Samhita, prescribe that a man who has committed murder should be hanged and his own life sacrificed in atonement. Previously, the system was followed all over the world, but since people are becoming atheists, they are stopping capital punishment. This is not wise. Herein it is said that a physician who knows how to diagnose a disease prescribes medicine accordingly. If the disease is very serious, the medicine must be strong. The weight of a murderer's sin is very great, and therefore, according to Manu Samhita, a murderer must be killed. By killing a murderer, the government shows mercy to him, because if a murderer is not killed in this life, he will be killed and forced to suffer many times in future lives. Since people do not know about the next life and the intricate workings of nature, they manufacture their own laws, but they should properly consult the established injunctions of the Shastras and act accordingly. In India, even today, the Hindu community often takes advice from expert scholars regarding how to counteract sinful activities. In Christianity, also, there is a process of confession and atonement. Therefore, atonement is required, and atonement must be undergone according to the gravity of one's sinful acts. Shirajovacha. Sorry, 1 second. Oh, God. Oh, I had a terrible night last night, so I'm feeling a bit tired. Okay. Trishtas Shrutavam Yat Papam Jananam Apyat oh God. Jananapyatmano Hitam Karoti Bhuyo Vivasha Prayashchitam Ato Katam. Maharaj Parīkṣit said, one may know that sinful activity is injurious for him because he actually sees that a criminal is punished by the government and rebuked by the people in general, and because he hears from scriptures and learned scholars that one is thrown into hellish conditions in the next life. Oh God, I read that wrong, and it's a long sentence. And one may know that sinful activity is injurious for him because he actually sees that a criminal is punished by the government and rebuked by people in general, and because he hears from scriptures and learned scholars that one is thrown into hellish conditions in the next life for committing sinful acts. That's a long sentence. Nevertheless, in spite of such knowledge, one is forced to commit sins again and again, even after performing acts of atonement. Therefore, what is the value of such atonement? Purport. In some religious sects, a sinful man goes to a priest to confess his sinful acts and pay a fine, but then he again commits the same sins and returns to confess them again. This is the practice of a professional sinner. Parīkṣit Maharaj's observations indicate that even 5,000 years ago, it was the practice of criminals to atone for their crimes, but then commit the same crimes again, as if forced to do so. Therefore, owing to his practical experience, Parīkṣit Maharaj saw that the process of repeatedly sinning and atoning is pointless. Regardless of how many times he is punished, one who is attached to sense enjoyment will commit sinful acts again and again until he is trained to refrain from enjoying his senses. The word vivasha is used herein, indicating that even one who does not want to commit sinful acts will be forced to do so by habit. Parīkṣit Maharaj therefore considered the process of atonement to have little value for saving one from sinful acts. In the following verse, he further explains his rejection of this process. Kvachin nivartate bhadrat kvachit charati tatpuna prayashchitam atopartam manye kunjarashochavat. Sometimes one who is very alert so as to not commit sinful acts is victimized by sinful life again. I therefore consider this process of repeated sinning and atoning to be useless. It is like the bathing of an elephant, for an elephant cleanses itself by taking a full bath, but then throws dust over its head and body as soon as it returns to the land. Purport. When Parīkṣit Maharaj inquired how a human being could free himself from sinful activities so as to not be forced to go to hellish planetary systems after death, Śukadeva Gosvāmī answered that the process of counteracting sinful life is atonement. In this way, Śukadeva Gosvāmī tested the intelligence of Maharaj Parīkṣit, who passed the examination by refusing to accept this process as genuine. Now, Parīkṣit Maharaj is expecting another answer from his spiritual master, Śukadeva Gosvāmī. Shri Badarayanir Uvacha Karma-kandic haro nahyantika ishyate avidvad adhikara ritvad prayashchitam vimarshanam. Śukadeva Gosvāmī, the son of Vedavyas, answered, My dear king, since acts meant to neutralize impious actions are also fruitive, they will not release one from the tendency to act fruitively. Persons who subject themselves to the rules and regulations of atonement are not at all intelligent. Indeed, they are in the mode of darkness. Unless one is freed from the mode of ignorance, trying to counteract one from action through another is useless, because this will not uproot one's desires. Thus, even though one may superficially seem pious, he will undoubtedly be prone to act impiously. Therefore, real atonement is enlightenment in perfect knowledge, Vedanta, by which one understands the supreme absolute truth. Purport. The Guru, Śukadeva Gosvāmī, has examined Parīkṣit Maharaj, and it appears that the king has passed one phase of the examination by rejecting the process of atonement because it involves fruitive activities. Now, Śukadeva Gosvāmī is suggesting the platform of speculative knowledge. Progressing from Karma-kandic to Jñāna-kāṇḍa, he is proposing Prayaschitam Vimarshanam. Real atonement is full knowledge. Vimarshana refers to the cultivation of speculative knowledge. In Bhagavad Gita, karmis who are lacking in knowledge are compared to asses. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7:15, Namam dushkritino mudha prapadyante naradhama mayaya pahrita jnana asuram bhavamash ashrita. Those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest among mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion, and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Thus, karmis who engage in sinful acts and who do not know the true objective of life are called mudas, asses. Muda also means fool. Vimarshan, however, is also explained in Bhagavad Gita 15:15, where Krishna says, Vedaishta sarvar aham eva vedya. The purpose of Vedic study is to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one studies Vedanta but merely advances somewhat in speculative knowledge and does not understand the Supreme Lord, one remains the same Muda. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 7:19, one attains real knowledge when he understands Krishna and surrenders unto him. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavam mang prapadyate. To become learned and free from material contamination, therefore, one should try to understand Krishna, for thus one is immediately liberated from all pious and impious activities and their reactions. Nashnata patyamevanam vyadhayo bhi bhavantihi vedam niyamakradrajan shanaikshe maya kalpate. Which verse are we reading up to? Let me just check really quick. 19. Okay. Purport. Oops. My dear king, if a diseased person eats the pure, uncontaminated food prescribed by a physician, he is gradually cured, and the infection of disease can no longer touch him. Similarly, if one follows the regulative principles of knowledge, he gradually progresses towards liberation from material contamination. Purport. One is gradually purified if one cultivates knowledge, even through mental speculation, and strictly follows the regulative principles enjoined in the Shastras and explained in the next verse. Therefore, the platform of Gyan, speculative knowledge, is better than the platform of karma, fruit of action. There is every chance of falling from the platform of karma to hellish conditions, but on the platform of Gyan, one is saved from hellish life, although one is still not completely free from infection. The difficulty is that on the platform of Gyan, one thinks that he has been liberated and has become Narayan, or Bhagavan. This is another phase of ignorance. Yen yeravindaksha vimuktamaninas tvayasta bhavara vishuddha buddhaya aruhya kritrena parampadam tata patantado nadrita yushmarangraya. Because of ignorance, one speculatively thinks himself liberated from material contamination, although actually he is not. Therefore, even if one rises to Brahma Gyan, understanding of Brahman, one nevertheless falls down because of not taking shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna. Nonetheless, Gyanis at least know what is sinful and what is pious, and they very cautiously act according to the injunctions of the Shastras. Tapasa brahmacharyena shamena cha damena cha tyagena satashochabyam yamena niyamena va teha vagbuddhijam dhira dharmagya shadayanvita Kshipantyagam maharapi venugulmam ivanala. To concentrate the mind, one must observe a life of celibacy and not fall down. One must undergo the austerity of voluntarily giving up sense enjoyment. One must then control the mind and senses, give charity, be truthful, clean and non-violent, follow the regulated principles, and regularly chant the holy name of the Lord. Thus, a sober and faithful person who knows the religious principles is temporarily purified of all sins performed with his body, words, and mind. These sins are like the dried leaves of creepers beneath a bamboo tree, which may be burned by a fire, although their roots remain to grow again at the first opportunity. Purport. One second, let me just need to stretch. Oh, okay. Purport. Tapa is explained in the Smriti Shastra as follows. Manashas chandriyam cha aikagram paramam tapa. Complete control of the mind and senses and their complete concentration on one kind of activity is called tapa. Our Krishna consciousness movement is teaching people how to concentrate the mind on devotional service. This is first-class tapa. Brahmacharya, the life of celibacy, has 8 aspects. One should not think of women, speak about sex life, dally with women, look lustfully at women, talk intimately with women, or decide to engage in sexual intercourse. Nor should one endeavor for sex life or engage in sex life. One should not even think of women or look at them, to say nothing of talking with them. This is first-class brahmacharya. If a brahmachari or sannyasi talks with a woman in a secluded place, naturally there will be a possibility of sex life without anyone's knowledge. Therefore, a complete brahmachari practices just the opposite. If one is a perfect brahmachari, he can very easily control the mind and senses, give charity, speak truthfully, and so forth. To begin, however, one must control the tongue and the path of eating. The path of devotional service. One must strictly follow the regulated principles by first controlling the tongue. The tongue, jiva, can be controlled if one chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, does not speak of any subjects other than those in Krishna, and does not taste anything not offered to Krishna. One can control the tongue in this way. Brahmacharya and other purifying processes will automatically follow. It will be explained in the next verse that the path of devotional service is completely perfect and is therefore superior to the path of fruitive activities and the path of knowledge. Quoting from the Vedas, Srila Vira Raghavacharya explains that austerity involves observing fasts as fully as possible. Tapasana shakena. Srila Rupa Goswāmī has also advised that atyahara, too much eating, is an impediment to advancement in spiritual life. Also, in Bhagavad Gita 6.17, Krishna says, Yuktahara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu yukta swapnavabodhasya yogo bhavati dukkaha. He who is temperate in his habits of eating, sleeping, working, and recreation can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. In text 14, the word dhira, meaning those who are undisturbed under all circumstances, is very significant. Krishna tells Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita 2.14, Matra sparshas kuntaya sitoshna sukha dukkada agama payano nityas tang satikshvasa bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and the appearance of due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O scion of Partha, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. In material life, there are many disturbances, adhyatmika, adidaiva, and adibhota. One who has learned to tolerate these disturbances under all circumstances is called dhira. Kechit kevalaya bhaktya vasudeva parayana agamdhun vanti kartsnena niharam eva bhaskara. Only a rare person who has adopted complete unalloyed devotional service to Krishna can uproot the weeds of sinful actions with no possibility that they will revive. He can do this simply by discharging devotional service, just as the sun can immediately dissipate fog by its rays. I need to stand up. Purport. 1 second. 1 second. There. One second, guys. Sorry, just need to clear my desk. There. Ah, that's much better. Okay. In the previous verse, Śukadeva Gosvāmī gave the example that the dried leaves of the creepers beneath a bamboo tree may be completely burnt to ashes by a fire, although the creepers may sprout again because the root is still in the ground. Similarly, because the root of sinful desire is not destroyed in the heart of the person who is cultivating knowledge, but who has no taste for devotional service, there is a possibility that his sinful desires will reappear, as stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 10:14-4. Shreya shritim bhaktim udasyate vibho klishyanti ye kevala bhodalabtaye. Speculators who undergo great labor to gain a meticulous understanding of the material world by distinguishing between sinful and pious activities, but who are not situated in devotional service, are prone to material activities. They may fall down and become implicated in fruitive activities. If one becomes attached to devotional service, however, his desires for material enjoyment are automatically vanquished without separate endeavor. Bhakti pareshanu bhavo viraktir anyatra cha. If one is advanced in Krishna consciousness, material activities, both sinful and pious, automatically become distasteful to him. That is the test of Krishna consciousness. Both pious and impious activities are actually due to ignorance, because a living entity, as an eternal servant of Krishna, has no need to act for his personal sense gratification. Therefore, as soon as one is reclaimed to the platform of devotional service, he relinquishes his attachment for pious and impious activities and is interested only in what will satisfy Krishna. This process of bhakti, devotional service to Krishna, Vasudeva Parayana, relieves one from the reactions of all activities. Since Maharaj Parīkṣit was a great devotee, the answers of his guru, Śukadeva Gosvāmī, concerning Karma-kandic and Jñāna-kāṇḍa, could not satisfy him. Therefore, Śukadeva Gosvāmī, knowing very well the heart of his disciple, explained the transcendental bliss of devotional service. The word kechit, which is used in this verse, means a few people, but not all. Not everyone can become Krishna conscious, as Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita 7:3. Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschid yatati siddhaye yattatam api siddhanam kaschin mam veti tattvata. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Practically, no one understands Krishna as he is, for Krishna cannot be understood through pious activities or attainment of the most elevated speculative knowledge. Actually, the highest knowledge consists of understanding Krishna. Unintelligent men who do not understand Krishna are grossly puffed up, thinking that they are liberated or have themselves become Krishna or Narayan. This is ignorance. To indicate the purity of bhakti, devotional service, Srila Rupa Goswami says in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, verse 11, Anyavilashita shunyam jnana karma dhanavritam anukulena krishnanu shilanam bhaktiruttama. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or mental or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. Srila Rupa Goswami further explains that bhakti is kleshagni shubhada, which means if one takes to devotional service, all kinds of unnecessary labor and material distress cease entirely, and one achieves all good fortune. Bhakti is so powerful that it is said to be moksha laguta krit. In other words, it minimizes the importance of liberation. Non-devotees must undergo material hardships because they are prone to commit sinful fruitive activities. The desire to commit sinful actions continues in their hearts due to ignorance. These sinful actions are divided into three categories: patak, mahapatak, and atipatak, and also into two divisions, prarabdha and aparabdha. Prarabdha refers to sinful reactions from which one is suffering at the present, and aparabdha refers to the sources of potential suffering. When the seeds, the bija of sinful reactions have not yet fructified, the reactions are called aprarabdha. These seeds of sinful action are unseen, but they are unlimited, and no one can trace when they were first planted. Because of prarabdha, sinful reactions that have already fructified, one is seen to have taken birth in a low family or to be suffering from other miseries. When one takes to devotional service, however, all phases of sinful life, including prarabdha, aprarabdha, and bij, are vanquished. In Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 11:14-19, Lord Krishna tells Uddhava, Yatagni samriddharchi karate dhangsi bhasmasat tata madvishaya bhaktir uddhavai nangsi kritsnasha. My dear Uddhava, devotional service and relationship with me is like a blazing fire that can burn to ashes all the fuel of sinful activities supplied to it. How devotional service vanquishes the reactions of sinful life is explained in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 3:33-6, and a verse spoken during Lord Kapila's instructions to his mother Devahuti. Devahuti said, Yanamadeyaba shavanani kirtanad yat pravanaryat smaranad api kvachit svado pipsadya savanaya kalpate kutha punaste bhagavan nudarshanat. My dear Lord, even if a person in a family of dog-eaters hears and repeats the chanting of your glories, offers respect to you, and remembers you, he is immediately greater than a Brahman and is therefore eligible to perform sacrifices. Therefore, what is to be said of one who has seen you directly? In the Padma Puran, there is a statement that persons whose hearts are always attached to the devotional service of Lord Vishnu are immediately released from all the reactions of sinful life. These reactions generally exist in four phases. Some of them are ready to produce results immediately, some in the form of seeds, some are ready to produce results immediately, some are in the form of seeds, some are unmanifested, and some are current. All such reactions are immediately nullified by devotional service. When devotional service is present in one's heart, desires to perform sinful activities have no place there. Sinful life is due to ignorance, which means forgetfulness of one's constitutional position as an eternal servant of God. But when one is fully Krishna conscious, he realizes that he is God's eternal servant. In this regard, Śrīla Jiva Gosvāmī comments that bhakti may be divided into two divisions: santata, devotional service that continues incessantly with faith and love, and two, kadachitki, devotional service that does not continue incessantly, but is sometimes awakened. Incessantly flowing devotional service, santata, may also be divided into two categories. One, a service performed with slight attachment, and two, spontaneous devotional service. Intermittent devotional service, kadachitki, may be divided into three categories. Raga bhasamai, devotional service in which one is almost attached. Raga bhasa shunya sarupa bhuta, devotional service in which there is no spontaneous love, but one likes the constitutional position of serving. And three, abhyasa rupa, a slight glimpse of devotional service. As for atonement, if one has caught even a slight glimpse of devotional service, all needs to undergo prayaschitta, atonement, are superseded. Therefore, atonement is certainly unnecessary for one who has achieved spontaneous love and above that, attachment with love, which are signs of increasing advancement in Kadachitki. Even in a stage of abhas-rupa bhakti, all the reactions of sinful life are uprooted and vanquished. Śrīla Jiva Goswāmī expresses the opinion that the word kartsnena means that even if one has a desire to commit sinful actions, the roots of that desire are vanquished merely by abhas-rupa bhakti. The example of Bhaskar, the sun, is most appropriate. The abhas feature of bhakti is compared to twilight, and accumulation of one's sinful activities is compared to fog. Since fog does not spread throughout the sky, the sun need do no more than merely manifest its first rays, and the fog immediately disappears. Similarly, if one has even a slight relationship with devotional service, all the fog of his sinful life is immediately vanquished. Na tatahya gavan rajan putteta tapo adivi yatta krishnarpita pranas tat purusha nishevaya. My dear king, if a sinful person engages in the service of a bona fide devotee of the Lord, and thus learns how to dedicate his life to the lotus feet of Krishna, he can be completely purified. One cannot be purified merely by undergoing austerity, penance, brahmacharya, and other methods of atonement. I have previously described. The other methods of atonement which I previously described. Purport. Tat Purusha refers to a preacher of Krishna consciousness, such as the spiritual master. Śrīla Narottam Das Thakur has said, Charya Vaishnava Seva Nistara Payechakeva. Without serving a bona fide spiritual master, an ideal Vaishnava, who can be delivered from the clutches of Maya? The idea is also expressed in many other places. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 5.5.2 says, Mahat Sevam Dwaram Iho Vimukte. If one desires liberation from the clutches of Maya, one must associate with a pure devotee, a Mahatma. A Mahatma is one who engages 24 hours daily in the loving service of the Lord, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 9.13. Mahatmanas tumam partha daivim praktam prakritimashita vajantananyamanaso gyatva bhutam avovyayam. O son of Pritha, those who are not deluded, the great souls, are under the protection of the divine name. They are fully engaged in devotional service because they know me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, original and inexhaustible. Thus, the symptom of a Mahatma is that he has no engagement other than the service to Krishna. One must render service to a Vaishnava in order to get freed from sinful reactions, revive one's original Krishna consciousness, and be trained how to love Krishna. This is the result of Mahatma Seva. Of course, if one engages in the service of a pure devotee, the reactions of one's sinful life are vanquished automatically. Devotional service is necessary not to drive away an insignificant stock of sins, but to awaken our dormant love for Krishna. As fog is vanquished at the first glimpse of sunlight, one's sinful reactions are automatically vanquished as soon as one becomes studying a pure devotee. No separate endeavor is required. The word Krishnarpita prana refers to a devotee who dedicates his life to serving Krishna, not to being saved from the path of hellish life. A devotee is Narayana Parayana or Vasudeva Parayana, which means that the path of Vasudeva, or the devotional path, is his life and soul. Narayana para sarve na kutaschana bhibhyati. Bhagavad Gita 6:17-28. Such a devotee is not satisfied of going anywhere. There is a path toward liberation in the higher planetary systems, and a path toward the hellish planets. But a Narayana para devotee is unafraid wherever he is sent. He simply wants to remember Krishna, and wherever he may be. Such a devotee is unconcerned with hell and heaven. He is simply attached to rendering service to Krishna. When a devotee is put into hellish conditions, he accepts them as Krishna's mercy. Tatenu kampam susumikshamano, Bhagavad Gita 10.14.8. He does not protest, "Oh, I am such a great devotee of Krishna. Why have I been put into this misery?" Instead, he thinks, "This is Krishna's mercy." Such an attitude is possible for a devotee who engages in the service of Krishna's representative. This is the secret of success. Sadarchino hyayam loke pantakshemo kuto bhaya shushila sadhavo yatra narayana parayana. The path followed by pure devotees, who are well behaved and fully endowed with the best qualifications, is certainly the most auspicious path in this material world. It is free from fear and is authorized by the Shastras. Purport. One should not think that the person who takes to bhakti is one who cannot perform the ritualistic ceremonies recommended in the Karma-kandic section of the Vedas, or is not sufficiently educated to speculate on spiritual subjects. Mayavadis generally allege that the bhakti path is for women and illiterates. This is a groundless accusation. The bhakti path is followed by the most learned scholars, such as the Goswamis and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramanujacharya. These are the actual followers of the bhakti path. Regardless of whether regardless of whether or not one is educated or aristocratic, one must follow in their footsteps. Mahajano yena gata sampanta. One must follow the path of the Mahajans. The Mahajans are those who have taken to the path of devotional service. Shushila sadhavo yatra narayana parayana. For these great personalities are the perfect persons. As stated in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 5.18.12, Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavat kinchana sarvar gunastatra samastate sura. One who has unflinching devotion to the personality of Godhead has all the good qualities of the demigods. The less intelligent, however, misunderstand the bhakti path and therefore allege that it is for one who cannot execute ritualistic ceremonies or speculate. As confirmed here by the word sadhirichina, bhakti is the path that is appropriate, not the paths of Karma-kandic and Jñāna-kāṇḍa. Mayavadis may be Shushila, Sadhava, well-behaved saintly persons, but there is nevertheless some doubt about whether they are actually making progress, for they have not accepted the path of bhakti. On the other hand, those who follow the path of the acharyas are Shushila and Sadhava, but furthermore, the path of akuto bhaya, which means free from fear. But furthermore, the path is akuto bhaya, which means free from fear. One should fearlessly follow the 12 Mahajans, and in their line of the civic succession, one thus become liberated from the clutches of Maya. Oh man. 2 more verses. Prayaschittani chirnani narayana paramukam na nishpunanti rajendra surakumbam iva paga. My dear king, as a pot containing liquor cannot be purified even if washed with the waters of many rivers. Non-devotees cannot be purified by processes of atonement, even if they perform them very well. Purport. To take advantage of the methods of atonement, one must be at least somewhat devoted. Otherwise, there is no chance of one's being purified. It is clear from this verse that even those who take advantage of Karma-kandic and Jñāna-kāṇḍa, but are not at least slightly devoted, cannot be purified simply by following these other paths. The word Prayaschittani is plural in number to indicate both Karma-kandic and Jñāna-kāṇḍa. Narottam Das Thakur therefore says, Karma-kandic Jñāna-kāṇḍa kevala vishera bhanda. Thus, Narottam Das Thakur compares the paths of Karma-kandic and Jñāna-kāṇḍa to pots of poison. Liquor and poison are in the same category. According to this verse from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, a person who has heard a good deal about the path of devotional service, but who is not attached to it, who is not Krishna conscious, is like a pot of liquor. Such a person cannot be purified without at least a slight touch of devotional service. Okay, we're ending with this verse here. Sakrin mana Krishna padara vindaya niveshitam tar gunaragiyariha yate yamam pasha vitaschatat patam swapne pipashyanti hichurnamit niskrita. Although not having fully realized Krishna, persons who even at once surrendered completely unto him, persons who have even once surrendered completely unto his lotus feet and who have become attracted to his name, form, qualities, and pastimes, are completely freed from all sinful reactions, for they have thus accepted the true aspect of devotional atonement. Even in dreams, such surrendered souls do not see Yamaraj or his order carriers, who are equipped with ropes to bind the sinful. Purport. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 18:66, Sarva dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam braja aham tam sarva papebhyo mokshayami ma sucha. Abandon all variety of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. This same principle is Sakrin mana Krishna padavindayo. If by studying Bhagavad Gita one decides to surrender to Krishna, he is immediately freed from all sinful reactions. It is also significant that Śukadeva Gosvāmī, having several times repeated the words Vasudeva Parayana and Narayana Parayana, finally says Krishna Padara Vindayo. Thus, he indicates that Krishna is the origin of both Narayan and Vasudeva. Even though Narayan and Vasudeva are not different from Krishna, simply by surrendering to Krishna, one fully surrenders to all his expansions, such as Narayan, Vasudeva, Govinda. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7:7, Matta parataram nanyat, there is no truth superior to me. There are many names and forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but Krishna is the supreme form, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Therefore, Krishna recommends to neophyte devotees that one should surrender unto him only, Mam Ekam. Because neophytes cannot understand the forms of Narayan, Vasudeva, and Govinda. Sorry, guys, let me reread that. Because neophyte devotees cannot understand what the forms of Narayan, Vasudeva, and Govinda are, Krishna directly says, Mam Ekam. Herein, this is also supported by the word Krishna Padara Vindayo. Narayan does not speak personally, but Krishna or Vasudeva does. And in Bhagavad Gita, for example, therefore, to follow the direction of Bhagavad Gita means to surrender unto Krishna, and to surrender in this way is the highest perfection of bhakti yoga. Parīkṣit Maharaj had inquired from Śukadeva Gosvāmī how one can be saved from falling into the various conditions of hellish life. This verse, oh God, I'm going to move this back down. Oh, okay. So Parīkṣit Maharaj inquired from Śukadeva Gosvāmī how he can be saved from falling into various conditions of hellish life. In this verse, Śukadeva Gosvāmī answers that a soul who is surrendered to Krishna certainly cannot go to Narak, hellish existence. To say nothing of going there, even in his dreams, he does not see Yamaraj or his order carriers, who are able to take place over there. Where did I read? I fell asleep. Okay, to say nothing of going there, even in his dreams, he does not see Yamaraja's order carriers who are able to take one there. In other words, if one wants to save himself from falling into Narak, hellish life, he should fully surrender to Krishna. The word Sakrit is significant because it indicates that if one sincerely surrenders to Krishna once, he is saved even if by chance he falls down by committing sinful activities. Therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 9:30, Api chet suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak sadurepa samantavya samyak vyavasito hisa. Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered a saintly person because he is properly situated. One is never meant for a moment. If one never for a moment forgets Krishna, he is safe even if by chance he falls down by committing sinful acts. In the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita 240, the Lord also says, Neha vikramana shasti pratavayo navidyate swalpamapasa dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. In this endeavor, there is no loss or diminution. And a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. Elsewhere in the Gita 640, the Lord says, Nahi kalyana krit kashchid durgatim tatagachati. One who performs auspicious activity is never overcome by evil. The highest kalyan, auspicious activity is to surrender to Krishna. That is the only path by which one can save oneself from falling down into hellish life. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati has confirmed this as follows. Kaivalyam narakayate tridashapurakasha pushpayate Durdantendriya kala sarpapatali protkata kata dangstayate Vishwampurna sukayate Vidimahendra, sorry guys, Vidimahendraidishcha kirtyate Yat karuna kataksha vaibhavatam tam goram evastuma. Sorry guys, I'm almost done. We're just at the end. The sinful actions of one who has surrendered unto Krishna are compared to a snake with its poison fangs removed. Protkata dangshtrayate. Such a snake is no longer to be feared. Of course, one should not commit sinful activities on the strength of having surrendered to Krishna. However, even if one who has surrendered to Krishna happens to do something sinful because of his former habits, such sinful actions no longer have a destructive effect. Therefore, one should adhere to the lotus feet of Krishna very tightly and serve him under the direction of the spiritual master. Thus, in all conditions, one will be akuto bhaya, free from fear. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay, and sorry, tomorrow we will begin telling the story of Ajamil. Alright. Okay. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol. God, I'm so sorry. I think I only slept like 3 hours last night or less. It was a crazy night. Anyways, Jai Shishi Guru Gauranga Kandavika Giridhari, Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai, Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupada Shatara Shatashmad, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupada Shatara Shatashmad, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupada Shatara Shatashmad, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupada Shatara Shatashmad, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupada Shatara Shatashmad, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishta Mahabhagavat Srila Goksharas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai, Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Rupano Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patatash Raghunath Shri Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gopal Shad Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Se Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Braja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Sarva Abhishta Pradata Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai, Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kund Ki Jai, Muna Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai, Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Ki Jai, Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Samagata Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shinitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Padadevi Sattvatai Namo Namaha Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Oh my God, thank you so much for tolerating my falling asleep so much. Last night I went to sleep really late, like 12:30 or something, or 1 o'clock in the morning. And then at like 2:30 and 3, there was this rat that was coming inside my room. And like, anyways, in the middle of the night, like at 3 o'clock in the morning, I turned on the lights and I was trying to get him out. And then after that, I couldn't fall asleep again. And so I'm just like really behind on sleep right now. So I'm going to take a little nap right now. But thanks for tolerating that. Hopefully, yeah, not every day is going to be like that. It was just today was a weird night. This is my recording setup right back here. See, I'm supposed to be recording for Gurudev's documentary that we're working on. That's what that was all about. Okay, Haribol.